and welcome to another episode of Digging History and Honoring the Sacrifice. I'm your host, James McCormick, and as you can see, I'm doing the intro and our exit from the field, actually my home office. So I've been spending a lot of time on the road, and as you'll see in some of this video, I've got to visit some really awesome locations, historical locations, and I have traveled outside the boundaries of West Virginia, but I've been spending a lot of time up in the Eastern Panhandle as well, because there's so much Civil War history and colonial history as well. Did you know that Charlestown, West Virginia is named after Charles Washington? And did you know, if you look under Ancestry.com, you'll see that my great-grandmother was Villa Washington, part of the Washingtons that was in Putnam County, where they just discovered some of my relatives' grave sites, and actually had talked about it in the paper. We've heard a lot of historians, and over the period of my life, I remember, watching my grandmother be interviewed about her father. Orville, they called him Orville Otho Washington, and he lived in Putnam County, West Virginia. And my grandfather used to tell me some amazing stories about when he was a kid growing up, in the 1930s, how they owned a blacksmith shop. And he would joke and tell all these stories about how they would tell him, don't touch anything in this blacksmith shop because everything's hot. And he said, sure enough, as a child, when he was going around, they called him Jumbo. He was a big boy. But honestly, my grandfather was born in his home. His mother, Villa Washington Riddle, who married Sam Riddle, a World War I veteran. And when he was born in the 1930s, he was born at his home, and he was 2 pounds. And they had to wrap my grandfather up in blankets and put him on top of a stove, a wood-burning stove. And that was the closest thing to an incubator that you could get in those days. But as fate would have it, my grandfather, Lee Riddle, grew into be a pretty significant big man, strong man, brick mason, well known throughout the state. If anybody that's ever worked with my grandfather, or you're watching this show, you may be in a house or you may be in a building where my grandfather used his hands to lay the blocks and the bricks. And of course, his sons and his nephew did the same thing as well. And I got to work a little bit in that industry, which is kind of why I went in the Army, because I thought that, I'd like to go travel and see the world. But my grandfather would tell me great stories about his grandfather, Washington, and how that they traced their lineage all the way back to the brother of George Washington. And even beyond, if you open up historical books and you look, you know that George Washington had no children of his own. So a lot of people say, well, I'm related to. It's not because he was their grandfather. It was because one of his brothers, and Charles Washington was one of those that had many children. And it's pretty amazing to have that kind of history. So part of what I've been doing as well is I've been going through history. I've been studying. I've been looking and looking at my family side. And I originally did this because I thought I want to join the sons and daughters of the American Revolution. And in order to do that, you have to show a direct link. And it wasn't long. We, of course, found the direct link to Charles Washington, who actually served as a lieutenant colonel in the Maryland militia and eventually with the Continental Army. And then we started finding other relatives on my dad's side. So I have a huge number of relatives that immigrated here from England and Scotland and Ireland and Germany. And it's just amazing as you start to get into, ancestry. And I'm not, pushing. I use Ancestry.com. You can look me up at James McCormick on Ancestry.com. And I've done a lot of research and a lot of genealogical research on there. And you may find that we may be related. Who knows? And it's kind of cool to watch the migration that occurred in the, at the turn of the century, even before we became a country. There was a settlement that came into the Appalachian Mountains and into that area that settled this area which was known as Virginia, and you know, was part of the colonies. So it's really cool when you get up into that area and you start to look around, and especially if you can get permission on some of these farms. And I will go, and most of these farmers will say, "Yeah, well, you know, there's been a lot of people out there, and it's really cold out. You sure you want to go digging today?" I said, I would love to, because I don't want to be out here and trample your crops or your cover crops or to hurt your land. And the ground's a little more solid. So generally, when I go to ask to do the metal detecting, shoot the video and stuff, I get a very warm reception. Number one, I show up and I'm polite and I'm decent, and I ask the questions. You know, you've got to do those things. And then some people, when you go up, you know, you can just tell they just don't want to be bothered. Don't push the issue. You know what I mean? And but when we start having a talk about history and the family history, especially around Charlestown, West Virginia, I think we hit it off automatically with those folks, because I'm really looking for a connection to my past, but I also want to bring some cool, opportunities to everybody that watches Digging History and Honoring the Sacrifice on the West Virginia Library Television Network. Thank you for watching. You know, we have an awesome opportunity here in West Virginia where volunteers who don't get paid a dime, like myself, come out here, and we use this as a platform to teach and to educate, and to know that my digging history shows have went into many schools around the state, and then is also on YouTube, where it's shared all across the country. That's pretty cool. I've made a lot of great connections, even overseas, you know, with the folks over in the United Kingdom. I know that I've talked about this a few times, but my new job keeps me hopping in the nation's capital. You know, you saw just recently we had a peaceful transition of power, and those are great things. That's what's all about America, folks. When I took an oath to the Constitution of the United States to serve, to defend this nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and went for 22 years serving in the Army and the Army National Guard, I felt like, that's what being an American was about to me. And then as I started to really study the history of America and really started to pick it apart, that was cool. But my goodness, when you go and you use a metal detector or a magnet thrown into the water and you pull something out that's 200 years old, or something that somebody may have just chucked to the earth because it was junk, and then you dig up like an old broken fork or a spoon, people look at that and say, well, that's junk. No, that's a 200-year-old piece of history. And the last time somebody touched that, it could have been Charles Washington. It could have been one of his kids. It could have been a Civil War soldier. It could have been a farmer that was just out there trying to make it. But whatever it was, it's a connection. You touch it, you feel it. This is what I love about archaeology, and I love about metal detecting. And there's a lot of back and forth, and I know I've got friends that are archaeologists. Look, I studied archaeology as well and studied history. I have a degree in history. I have a degree in technology and a master's, and I also have a doctorate in divinity and in counseling, religious counseling. And I can tell you that all of those have all of these different, types of people that see things historically differently. I see no value in leaving something buried in the ground. I see greater value of digging it up, properly preserving it, and getting it in a museum. There's so many local museums in and around areas where I do this metal detecting that have bullets, buttons, things that I find I don't need any more bullets or buttons, folks. I don't need to keep these artifacts, and nor do I want to keep these artifacts shoved in a drawer someplace, or, even if I have my own, area. I have a friend that does a really good job. He's a local guy. And everything he finds, he videotapes, takes pictures of, and then every year he takes you through this room. So it's like a walk through history. And he does such a fantastic job at that. He's preserving history. Okay? He's not using it for a selfish purpose, and most metal detectorists are professional. So let's talk about a couple other things whenever you're out there looking around. We've studied, what some of the positive things that we do. We find artifacts. We do all these things where we preserve history. But another thing that we do is we clean up a lot of trash, folks. We clean up trash. We clear trails. We move brush. We dig dirt. And we actually, in some cases, reveal seeds and plants and flowers that have been in hibernation for many cases for dozens and dozens of years. So you can go back and you can see where a metal detectorist has been and where they dug the hole, they remove the artifact, obviously fill their hole, and they put it back. Sometimes you dig up, old crocus plants and these different things that have been just down in the earth. And then because you've brought it to the surface and you've put it back together like that, that plant blooms. And I have walked into areas where we have been a year and 2 years before, and there's all these little patches of wildflowers. And it's a wonderful thing to see. And in the wintertime, when I'm out there digging, I scratch an area free, dig it up, expose the grass. I'll come back 2 or 3 days later, and I can see where the deer and the turkey have went around, and they benefited from that. Additionally, we've cleared trails. You've seen the wildfires and all the things that are going. If you go into a forested area, whether it be private, whether it be public land, whatever it is, most of them are not cleaned, okay? We have a lot of overgrown brush and trails, and it used to be when I was a young man growing up, people would go through and they would clear the trails. They would do controlled burns where that you wouldn't have, the fire issues. I don't remember seeing massive wildfires like I see now. Now, opening up areas to metal detectorists doesn't mean that's going to prevent a forest fire. But what it will mean is that you'll have a set of eyes out in those woods looking around, and we pick up trash. So if you've seen me do this 1,000 times, on this show, I go through, I carry this huge bag on my side. It is always filled with trash. Aluminum cans, paper, whatever I find that's not biodegradable, I put it in my bag and I carry it out. I didn't drop it. I didn't leave it there, but I'm taking it out. I also take a lot of lead out of the ground and away from water sources. There's a leaching effect of lead. There's been different discussions about this when they talk about finding lead in your water and all these different things. And some people will debate that or whatnot, but most certainly an unnatural object like lead taken out of the ground and removed is not hurting anything. It's not disturbing the wildlife, and in many cases, it enhances and it promotes, the growth of green, wonderful things, okay, that animals feed on, that are beautiful to look at, and then to also have that extra set of eyes out there that's looking around, and then, and I'll go and I'll say, hey, you got this tree down over this trail, thanks for letting me know. And they'll go out and they'll cut it, they'll move it. If I had a chainsaw and a four-wheeler, I would probably go out and do some of that for them. We moved a lot of rocks for a couple of guys that own some property over in Cabell County because we wanted access. And the whole area we wanted to dig had this rock fall. So we had to move all these rocks, and I shot a video of it where we stacked all these rocks up. And they built a wall with those rocks. So how cool is that, right? And it would have taken them a long time to do that. Just because we had to move everything. We had to clear everything out. I mean, we have literally cleaned out areas just to get to the bare ground to where possible artifacts could be, taking out truckloads of stuff. And that's part of the things that we like to do as a way to say thank you. We've been in areas that people didn't know that they had homeless encampments and stuff on their private property. And we'll be like, yeah, you got like 15 people living here in this homeless camp. And that in itself is a great service, especially to a private property owner that doesn't know what's out there, or maybe they don't have the cameras set up. So if someone like me comes to your door and says, hey, I'd like to go metal detecting, think about some of these positive things. You, the elected officials that are out there, you're looking at policies and things. Don't restrict metal detectors. As a matter of fact, I would open up your state parks and your areas to allow professional metal detectorists to go in and to do the detecting and to do the digging and to do some of the removal of some of these artifacts and to turn them into the cultural center so that we preserve some of this history that's buried in the ground all over West Virginia. It's been a suggestion of mine for many, many years, and it's a good suggestion. No doubt it would help you to maintain your property. It definitely would have you an extra set of eyes out there, and we pick up a whole lot of trash, folks. Most of the stuff we dig up is not gold coins and all these other things, and people think that you're going to take something so greatly valuable. I've never found, a gold coin. Found a lot of silver coins, but I've never found this massive gold coin or anything worth more than a few dollars, okay? There have been some silver coins that have been more valuable, but in most cases, folks, when you go out, you might find a handful of Civil War bullets, maybe a couple of buttons, and a whole bag full of trash that you're removing. You're doing a great service, and you are aerating the soil. That's another positive thing that happens, and it helps with fire prevention as well as the absorption of water. That also helps with fire prevention, that allows the more green growth to grow. And then, of course, we move a lot of trash out of the way of the trails and stuff. So, something to think about. I hope that you will do that. But I want you to take a look at some of this winter digging that I've done out there, folks. And remember that when you see us on Facebook or any other places, give us a like, give us a thumbs up. I don't need your money. I just want your thumbs up. If you just give us one thumbs up, okay? That's all we need. Or if you want to go metal detecting, give us a call and watch some of this footage from the field. And guess what? Once we're done with that, we'll be right back to do the closing of the show. Thanks a lot, and roll them. Digging history fans, as you can see, I'm out here in the snow digging with my Nocta Micro Legend. I set the speed down to about a 6. I may bump it down to a 5. But my first find out here searching. It doesn't look like much, does it? But do you know what that is? That's the end of a spoon or a knife or a fork. That's the end of the handle for that. So I popped that up out of the ground. It's down there maybe 3 or 4 inches under the snow. It picked it up just as plain as day. So, don't let a little bad weather keep you out of the woods. It's actually a good time to get out here. There's not that many people, and most people don't mind you out here, digging around, because, honestly, you'll see, I've seen no human tracks out here. I've seen a lot of people tracks, but it's an interesting little find there. You probably dropped by a Civil War soldier here that was either Union or Confederate. But we'll keep looking, maybe we'll find some other stuff. If not, we're definitely going to get our walking in today. So, and that's been a goal, is to get out and try to do 10,000 steps a day. And, I would encourage everyone to do the same. It's a very healthy thing to do. So, let's just keep walking and keep moving. Stay alive. That's the key. Oh, I should have brought my boots. I did not. But I really didn't want to get in the water today. It's just too cold. So, but we'll be looking here up and down this trail. We'll be looking on the sides of these hills and stuff, where some of the ground's exposed. But I've been real lucky in the cold weather. It just seems to give me a better signal, and there you go. Okay, digging history fans, out here in the snow, digging, shooting videos so you can see this dirty old man's hands. There's my gloves. This is a 3-ring bullet from the American Civil War. I'm on a private piece of property close to the Battle of Monocacy. Thousands of bullets were fired. So far, I've found about a dozen bullets. Found an infantry button. Found some pieces of brass. A couple pieces of metal that I think are probably cannonball fragments, but it's always nice to dig one of these up, you know. It's just a beautiful piece of history from a battle that occurred in 1864. 1864. So there you go. 160 plus years ago. All right, folks. So I'm out here digging, and look at these 2 bucks. They're like within very close to me here. And they're starting to walk off. I don't want to scare. Oh, there they go. There goes one. That's the big boy right there. He's a big boy. Gosh. I mean, they're like... really close. You gotta watch them though. Here's the rut. So when you're out, you know, out digging around, remember, you got wildlife out there. Here's the one, he's going off. You know, clearly I could have easily taken both these deer if I really needed to harvest one. Now this one right here, you're having a hard time seeing because of the sun and the tree, but he's about a 1, 2, 3, 4. I think he's a 10-pointer. No. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. Maybe an 8-pointer, but a big one. Now, he's a big guy right there. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous buck. And of course, there's a doe standing over there in the distance there. And there he is, giving me the back shot. Yeah, they're starting to get worried now, but that's what you see out here in the woods sometimes. And you got to be stealthful. Obviously, I can be pretty stealthful when I need to be. They don't seem like they're too afraid of me. So I'm going to bypass them and walk on over and find me a spot to metal detect. Wow, what a great time, huh? You like some of those videos that you saw? Digging in the winter, getting my hands into the mud. But I found some cool things. In spite of all of that stuff and being very cold, very, very cold. You know, you have to dress in layers. You have to do all of those things and take those safety precautions that are extremely important. You'll never find anything sitting on the couch, folks. You know, we do a lot of this to motivate veterans and people of all ages, of all demographics. Because it's good to get up and move around and get around and experience nature. Maybe you don't want to do metal detecting. Maybe all you want to do is take a walk down a trail, or you just want to experience the wilderness. I would encourage you to do that. Get a partner, get a friend, go for a walk. Don't let anxiety, depression, or other people's thoughts and opinions drive you away from doing something that you love to do. Doesn't matter, you know, how old you are, how young you are, you know, how big you are, tall, small, short, whatever the case may be. You know, just get out and enjoy life, okay? And that's why we do what we do at Digging History and Honoring the Sacrifice. It's more than just metal detecting for us, folks. It really is. It's about preserving history, but more importantly, it's about bringing something to you, the people that watch this. All of you that are out there, you kids that are in school, that are watching this, you know, or maybe you're out there in the gym and you're working out and you look up and you say, hey, there's that gray-headed guy again. You've watched me get a little grayer over the years, right? But that's okay. I'm a happy person. In spite of everything, in spite of all that you might think that a person goes through in their life. You know, I was very fortunate. I lived through 2 wars, Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and Operation Iraqi Freedom. A lot of my friends didn't get that opportunity to come home. And everything that I do now, I think about those friends. And I'm living my best life, not just for me, but for them, because they didn't get a chance to live their life. So if I seem goofy or I'm saying something to make you laugh, it's because I want to make you laugh. And I want you to not be depressed. And I want you to be happy. And I want you to enjoy doing something. I want you to enjoy life and embrace it enough, okay, that you want to stick around and hang around with us. You know, suicide is not just a veterans epidemic. It's a nationwide epidemic. 44,000 people, non-veterans, killed themselves in 2022. A lot of that is because of the online bullying and stuff that goes on social media. We need to be careful what we say. We need to use our words appropriately. We need to show compassion. You know, a lot of people say, well, it's my constitutional right. Well, you're right. It is your constitutional right. But your rights end where mine begins. And never forget that, folks, that you have just as much the right to the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness as the person that is constantly nagging and poking at you. Find peaceful resolutions and civility. But also remember that there are some people out there that are just too ignorant to see that. And you're going to have to move around and get away from those kind of negative things. Negativity has no place in a happy person's life. You got to find a way to get rid of it, shake it off, bake it off, walk it off, detect it off, okay? Whatever you got to do. Get a dog, get a horse, get a cat, get a goat. Whatever you need to do, folks. But find that joy and happiness in your life. And remember that we at Digging History and Honoring the Sacrifice and all these folks here at the West Virginia Library Television Network care about you. And we believe that West Virginia is the most awesome state in the country. And it's going to get even better because of wonderful people like you. Thank you very much. Have a great day. And get off the couch and get moving.